Now, function notation is really important. We're going to be using that throughout this class, so we need to know how to read it. So when you see f of x, it means that f is a function of x. That means x is what we would call the independent variable, while y is the dependent variable. Sometimes you'll hear, that a function is y depends on x. Okay, so x is independent, f of x is the function, and you might want to make note, f of x equals y. F of x equals y. You need to kind of make that connection early, that f of x equals y. So when we're doing function notation, whatever happens to be inside this parentheses here, that is where my x is going to go. This is x. Okay, so f of -3 means that I'm going to do 2 times -3 squared minus 3 times -3 plus 1. And that is what I'm going to put into my calculator, and I'm going to do the arithmetic to figure that out. And so this would be 9 times 2 is 18. -3 times -3 is positive 9 plus 1, and that's going to be 28. Okay? And sometimes we can simplify and sometimes we can't. For example, letter B. I'm going to substitute square root of 2 in for x. Again, keep in mind, this is my x. So whatever this is replacing the x. So it's 2 times the square root of 2 squared minus 3 times the square root of 2 plus 1. Now notice what I am not doing. I am not multiplying by the whole function by the square root of 2. I'm replacing the x in the function. So this would be 2 times 2 is 4. And then minus 3 square root of 2 plus 1. So 5 minus 3 square root of 2. I can't really simplify that any further. So that would be my answer. So letter C, again, A is what is getting put into the equation. So that's going to be 2 times A squared minus 3 times A plus 1. Well, there's not a whole lot of simplifying to be done. That just makes it 2A squared minus 3A plus 1. So on this last one, f of 3 plus z, again, what's in here is actually my x. So that means it's 2 times 3 plus z squared minus 3 times 3 plus z plus 1. And so I'm going to need to square. I'm going to need to square this before I start simplifying. Now be careful. That means what I'm going to do is 3 plus z times 3 plus z. Many times we start squaring that and we get in trouble because we forget that when we multiply that all out, we've got to do the distributing of all of my terms. So what that comes out to be is 3 times 3 is 9, plus 3z plus 3z plus z squared. And then I can distribute the 2. So that's going to be 18 plus 6z plus 6z plus 2z squared. And I can distribute here minus 9 minus 3z plus 1. And then I can combine all those like terms. There's a lot of them there. So let's look at that. So I've got z squared. So I'm going to do 2z squared. 2z squared. Then I can see that I've got a 6z plus 6z minus 3z. So 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. So this is going to be plus 9z And then I'm going to have 18 minus 9 plus 1. 18 minus 9 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So that last term would be plus 10. So let's do another one. G of x equals the square root of 6 minus 2x. So we're going to start by plugging in the 3 to the x. So that's going to give me the square root of 6 minus 2 times the x gets replaced with 3. So that's the square root of 6 minus 6, which is the square root of 0, which is actually just 0. Okay, let's look at B. 4 is going to go in for the x. So this is going to be the square root of 6 minus 2 times 4. So that's going to be the square root of 6 minus 8, which is the square root of negative 2. Now, we're going to learn soon how to rewrite the square root of negative 2, but in real numbers, it actually doesn't exist. The square root of negative 2 is not a real number. So in real numbers, it doesn't exist. We're going to learn that when we have these negatives, that we can write them as I square root of 2, but it's a lesson for another video. So let's look at letter C. Letter C tells me I'm putting in negative 4 in for x. So that means I'm going to put 6 minus 2 times negative 4. Well, 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So that's 6 plus 8, which is the square root of 14. And I can't simplify that, so that's my answer. And then lastly, G of 2w means I'm going to do the square root of 6 minus 2 times 2w. So that's going to give me 6 minus 4w, and I can't simplify that any further, so that's my answer. So another thing we can do with functions is we can find their x and y intercepts. So you'll notice function notation, the x-intercept is found by doing f of x equals 0. In other words, we replace f of x with 0 and then solve that equation. For the y-intercept, we do find f of 0, which means we're replacing the x with 0. So what I like to say sometimes is to find the x-intercept, we make y equals 0. To find the y-intercept, we make x equals 0. And again, keep in mind, f of x is the same thing as y. So if I want to find the x-intercepts of f of x equals x squared minus 4, I'm going to do 0 equals x squared minus 4. And so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. That gives me 4 equals x squared, and then I'm going to square root. And as we go through this course, we're going to learn that this is plus or minus 2. So we actually have two x-intercepts. They are 2, 0 and negative 2, 0. To find the y-intercept, I'm going to make x equal 0. So I'm going to find f of 0, which means I'm going to do 0 squared minus 4. And 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. Okay, let's find them on this next one. So the x-intercept is where I'm going to do 0 equals 3 minus the square root of the absolute value of x. So I'm going to solve that. So that's negative 3 equals negative the absolute value of x. So the absolute value of x equals positive 3. Now, we're going to cover this more as we go through, but the absolute value of x means that how far away from 0 can we go? That's absolute value. So the absolute value of x is what has a distance of 3 from 0. That is also plus or minus 3. So I have two x-intercepts again, 3, 0, negative 3, 0. And then g of 0 gives me my y-intercept. And g of 0 means 3 minus the absolute value of 0, which is just going to give me an answer of 3. So my y-intercept is 0, 3. You'll often see these written as points, by the way. Okay, one more. To get the x-intercept I'm going to do 0 equals 2 minus the square root of x. I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm going to move the square root of x to the left, make it positive, and then to get rid of the square root, we're going to square both sides. So x equals 4. So my x-intercept is 4, sorry about that, 4, 0. To find the y-intercept, you're going to substitute in 0. So h of 0 is 2 minus the square root of 0, which is 0. So that's 2. So the y-intercept is 0, 2.